She smiled at me like nothing happened, like she hadn't destroyed my wedding just 6 months ago. So when the priest asked if anyone objected, I stood up and told everyone what she'd been hiding for 20 years. When I say my mom ruined my wedding, I don't mean she made a few snide comments or showed up late. I mean she destroyed it like a hurricane in heels. It started 6 months ago. I was finally marrying my college sweetheart, Ryan. We've been together for 8 years, through broke dorm nights, student debt, everything. He is the kind of guy who still opens the car door and remembers your coffee order. My mom, on the other hand, is the kind of woman who sees every spotlight and thinks it belongs to her. From the moment I got engaged, she turned my wedding into her performance. She demanded to walk me down the aisle because your father is gone, so it'll be symbolic. She wanted a matching dress for the aesthetic. She even tried to pick the song for our first dance. I brushed it off. She has always been dramatic, always craving attention. But nothing prepared me for what she did. On the actual day, I remember standing at the altar, hands trembling, heart pounding. Ryan looked nervous but happy. The pastor started the vows, and right then my mom stood up. She said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Before you make the biggest mistake of your life, there is something you should know about her." The room froze. My chest went cold. She pulled out her phone and started reading texts, fake screenshots she'd found, supposedly proving I'd cheated on Ryan with a coworker. Gasp. Whispers. Ryan's face pale, broken. I tried to explain, begged him to look at me. But the damage was done. The whispers turned into stares, and before I knew it, Ryan walked out of our own wedding. That night, I packed my things and stayed at a friend's house, while my mom went home and posted smiling photos of herself in her wedding outfit captioned, "Family always tells the truth, even when it hurts." She cost me everything. But karma has a funny sense of timing. Because today, 6 months later, she asked the one standing in white, and I'm sitting in the front row, holding her secret in my hands. And when the priest asks if anyone objects, I will. When I got the invitation, I actually laughed. It was pink, covered in fake gold foil, and said, "You're cordially invited to the union of Margaret and Daniel, a love that stood the test of time. A love that stood the test of time, please." Daniel was my late father's best friend. Yes, the man standing at the altar today was the same man who helped carry my dad's coffin 10 years ago when my father died. Daniel comforted my mom. He was kind, gentle, and genuinely cared for us. He came around, often helped fix the fence, mowed the lawn, even took me out for ice cream when my mom was too busy. But around 2 years after my dad's death, he stopped showing up. My mom said he'd moved out of state. Now I know the truth. They didn't. Drifted apart. They'd been together the whole time. The timing didn't make sense until I found the letters. 2 weeks after she ruined my wedding, I went to her house to grab some of my old things. She wasn't home, but the key was still under the ceramic frog. By the porch, I went into the attic, where she keeps boxes of old photos. Inside one of them, I found a bundle of letters tied with a red ribbon, addressed to M. From D. I shouldn't have read them, but curiosity. I send T something you can put back once it's open. The first letter was dated 3 months before my dad's death. Daniel wrote about how hard it was to hide what we had, and how he can't wait until we can be together without guilt. My stomach turned. My mother had been cheating on my dying father with his best friend, and now she was marrying that man in the same church my parents had their vows renewed in. I stared at that invitation for days, burned holes in it with my eyes. My friends said I should just cut her off, go no contact, move on. But she didn't let me move on when it was my wedding. She humiliated me in front of everyone I loved. So when the chance came to return the favor, I didn't hesitate. I wasn't planning to ruin her big day. Not at first. But then she called me. She said in her chirpy, self-satisfied tone, "Sweetheart, I'd really love for you to give a speech at the reception. It would mean the world to me if we could finally make peace." Make peace after everything she'd done. I smiled into the phone. "Sure, Mom. I'd love to." She had no idea the speech I was writing wasn't about forgiveness. It was about truth. I spent weeks rehearsing that speech. At first I told myself it was about justice, about telling the truth. But the truth is part of me just wanted her to hurt. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation I'd felt, standing there in white, while my world fell apart. I wanted her to see people's faces twist with judgment, the way they looked at me. And that scared me, because it meant I was becoming a little like her. I'd stand in front of the mirror, pretending to hold a champagne glass to my mom, Margaret. A woman who taught me that honesty matters most. Then I'd pause. Even when it destroys the people you love. Every time I said it out loud, I picture her fake smile cracking. But late at night, when the anger faded, doubt crept in. Was I really going to ruin a wedding? Did I want to become the kind of person who stands up and shatters someone else's happiness in front of hundreds of people? Ryan's face haunted me. I remembered how he looked at me. When my mother exposed those fake texts, the confusion, the heartbreak. He didn't even wait for an explanation. We never spoke again if I did this. I'd be doing the same thing she did to me, taking someone else's moment of joy and burning it down in front of an audience. But then I saw her Facebook post. It was a photo of her in a white dress, with Daniel's arms around her. The caption said, "Sometimes love finds you when you least expect it, after years of friendship and honesty." Honesty. That word hit me like a punch. I remembered my father coughing in the hospital, begging her to come visit, and her saying she was too tired after helping a friend. I remembered the way Daniel avoided looking me in the eye at the funeral. Number. She didn't. He deserved peace. Not after all the lies. So I printed the letters. Every single one, I slipped them into a cream envelope and placed it inside my clutch. When the wedding day came, I wore black. She said, "Oh, honey, couldn't you pick something happier?" I smiled and said, "Black suits me." She laughed, thinking I was joking. She had no idea what I was about to do. The morning of the wedding felt like déjà vu. The same church bells, the same smell of lily, the same uneasy tightness in my chest. Only this time I wasn't the bride. The venue looked straight out of a Pinterest board. Twinkling lights, white roses, champagne glasses glimmering in perfect symmetry. Everything screamed perfect. That was my mom perfection on the outside, rot on the inside. As I took my seat in the front row, I could feel eyes on me. Some of the guests had been at my wedding, the one that never actually happened. I heard whispers. I senti that her daughter. Poor thing, I can't believe she came. I wanted to laugh. If only they knew why I was here. Then I saw Daniel. He looked nervous, older than I remembered. His suit fit too tightly around his shoulders. His hands fidgeted as he stood at the altar. For a brief second, I wondered if he felt any guilt. And then my mother appeared. The doors opened, and there she was, floating down the aisle like a queen. Her dress was elegant, timeless. The same designer ID picked for mine. Actually, she must have used my tailor. My throat tightened as I remembered the hours I'd spent choosing that lace pattern, those sleeves. She smiled at everyone glowing in the light. When her eyes landed on me, her smile didn't falter. It widened. A smug, victorious grin. Like she'd already won whatever twisted game we were playing. The ceremony began. The pastor spoke about forgiveness, second chances, eternal love. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. Every word felt like a lie floating in the air, gilded and hollow. Daniel's voice trembled as he said his vows. My mother didn't he? She said them confidently, like someone who'd never done a single wrong thing in her life. You've been my rock, my confidant, my greatest friend. That was it, the line that broke me. Because those were the exact words she'd written to my father 10 years ago when he was dying. I'd seen that letter too. She'd recycled her own vows, just swapped names. The anger boiled so hot it made me dizzy. And then the pastor said, if anyone here knows of a reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever. Hold your peace. My heart pounded. The room was silent. I could feel the envelope in my clutch. My fingers twitched. My mom turned her head slightly. Her gaze met mine. That same smug smile. She thought I'd stay quiet. She thought wrong dot. I didn't plan to stand up. Not consciously anyway. It was like my body decided before my brain did. One moment I was gripping my clutch so tightly, my knuckles were white. The next, I was on my feet. Every head in the room turned. The sound of my chair scraping the floor echoed like a gunshot. My mother's smile faltered. Sweetheart, she said, voice trembling just slightly. What are you? I looked straight at the pastor. I have a reason, I said. They shouldn't be married. A low murmur rippled through the guests. Daniel's face went pale. My mom's hand gripped his arm. This is ridiculous, she hissed, her voice cracking on the edges of her practiced voice. I took a deep breath. My knees were shaking, but my voice wasn't he. Before you all witness this fairy tale, I began, you should know the real story. The one that started before my dad even died. Her eyes widened. Don't you dare? I dared. I reached into my clutch and pulled out the cream envelope. My fingers brushed the paper, and I swear I could feel the weight of every lie she'd ever pressing told against my palm. These, I said, are letters written by Daniel to my mother, dated months before my father passed away. They talked about sneaking around, hiding their relationship while my dad was in hospice. Gasps. A few people covered their mouths. Daniel took a step back, whispering something to her. I couldn't hear you. Think this is funny. My mom snapped. You're sick, you need help. Her voice cracked mid-sentence, that perfect polished tone slipping for the first time. You ruined my wedding with lies, I said, staring her down. Now I'm just returning the truth. I placed the letters on the altar. The pastor looked like he wanted to disappear. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Oh my God." Daniel tried to grab one of the letters, but my mom snatched it first. Her hands were shaking so badly, she tore the paper. They're fake, she shouted. She made them up. But the handwriting, Daniel says, was unmistakable. I saw his face crumble as he realized there was no way out. Then silence. The kind that stretches too long, heavy and suffocating. My mom stood there in her perfect white dress, clutching a ripped letter in one hand and Daniel's sleeve in the other. And then she said something I'll never forget. You don't know the whole story. The words hung in the air like smoke. You don't know the whole story. For the first time, my mom didn't sound angry. She sounded tired. I froze. The guests were whispering again, shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Daniel's face went completely blank, like he was waiting for her to fix this, to save him. What story? I asked. My voice was sharp, but my stomach twisted. The one where you cheated on your dying husband with his best friend. She took a step toward me. The one where I was already divorced before your father died. The air left my lungs. That is not true, I snapped. I was there when he passed. You were still married. Her eyes filled with tears. Real ones. Didn't he even know she could cry like that anymore? Your father filed for divorce, but he never told you. He didn't want to upset the family image, she said, her voice cracking. He found out about Daniel. Yes, and he forgave me. We were separated for months before he passed. My throat burned. You expect me to believe that? She nodded slowly. You were 17. You only saw what he wanted you to see. The room went dead silent again. I could hear my pulse pounding in my ears. I looked at Daniel, desperate for a sign of guilt. Regret anything? He swallowed hard. She's telling the truth, he whispered. For a second, my world tilted. I remembered my dad's hospital room, the way he avoided talking about my mom, how he'd changed the subject whenever she came up. Could it be true? Had I spent years hating her for something that wasn't what I thought it was? No, I couldn't go there. Not after everything. Even if that is true, I said. You still didn't have to humiliate me at my wedding. Her tears vanished as quickly as they came. Her face hardened again. You humiliated me first. She snapped. I blinked. What are you talking about? She let out a shaky laugh. You really think I ruined your wedding for fun? You think I just wanted attention? No, sweetheart. I was trying to stop you from marrying someone who was lying to you. The crowd murmured again. Ryan. My ex-fiancé. My heart stopped. What do you mean? I asked, barely above a whisper. My mother's lip trembled, and for once, she looked almost human. Because he wasn't who you thought he was, she said. Ryan was cheating on you. My mom's words echoed like a slap. Ryan was cheating on you for a second. I thought I misheard her. The guests were whispering louder now, heads turning between us like they were watching a courtroom drama. You're lying, I said. You made fake screenshots to frame me. Why should I believe you now? She shook her head. Those screenshots weren't fake. I just switched the names. What? She pulled a folded piece of paper from her clutch. Of course she had one ready, and handed it to the pastor, who looked like he wanted to vanish. These are the originals, she said. Texts between Ryan and your maid of honor. My stomach dropped. I snatched the paper from his hands. My name was T, and the messages. Hers was Chloe. Ryan, you looked incredible last night. Can't stop thinking about it. Chloe, you shouldn't text me. She see Ryan, she want to. She never does. My fingers went numb. The dates were from 2 months before the wedding. No, I whispered. That's not possible. My mom's voice softened. I tried to tell you before the wedding. You wouldn't listen. You said I was jealous. I remembered that night her calling me, warning me that Chloe wasn't a real friend. I hung up on her. thinking she just wanted to ruin my happiness. The ground under me felt like it was tilting. "I didn't he want to embarrass you," she said. "But when I saw you about to marry a man who'd even with your best friend, I panicked. I overreacted. I was wrong to do it that way. But I wasn't wrong about him." Tears burned my eyes, my mom's words blurred. Ryan, Chloe, the two people I trusted most. And ID spent 6 months hating my mom, hating her so deeply that ID built this entire revenge plan. When she'd been trying to protect me, the crowd was whispering again. Daniel rubbed his temples. My mom stood there shaking, mascara streaking her face. I wanted to scream or run or vanish. Instead, I just said the only thing that made sense in that moment. "Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" Her answer was almost a whisper. "Because I knew you'd never believe me, not after everything I'd already done." And for the first time in years, I didn't know what to say. I didn't remember leaving the church one moment. Everyone was staring the next. I was outside standing in the cold, with the letters still clutched in my hand. The laughter, the music, the whispers all muffled behind the heavy wooden doors. My hands were trembling. I could still hear her voice echoing in my head. "Ryan was cheating on you. It couldn't be true." But it felt true. Every tiny thing I'd ignored started clicking into place. The late nights at work, the phone he'd always flip face down, the way Chloe started avoiding my calls after the engagement. And my mother. All this time I'd hated her for lying, when maybe she'd been telling the truth in the worst possible way. I sat on the stone steps shaking. People started trickling out of the church, whispers, glances, a few awkward smiles. No one said a word to me. Then Daniel came out. He didn't say anything for a while. Just stood next to me, staring at the ground. Finally, he said quietly, "You really didn't know?" I laughed a dry, broken sound. "Guess not," he sighed. "Your father was my best friend. What we did was wrong, but we didn't mean to hurt you. We thought you'd moved on from what the family they both destroyed." I didn't answer. He walked away after a moment, leaving me there in the cold. That night, I opened my old laptop and searched my messages with Ryan. My hands were still shaking, but I needed to know, and there it was, a message I'd never seen before. Months before our wedding, from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "You deserve to know the truth about Ryan and Chloe." It was sent anonymously, probably from my mom. I'd ignored it, thinking it was some spam or troll. My heart cracked open. Everything she'd done, the humiliation, the outburst, the public chaos had been twisted and awful. But maybe her reasons weren't. Maybe she thought the only way to make me see was to make it impossible for me not to. And now I'd just done the same thing to her. I'd taken her happiest day and set it on fire, believing I was right. I didn't know who the villain was anymore. Maybe there weren't any villains. Maybe there were just people broken, angry, trying to love the wrong way. I sat there until dawn, staring at my phone, trying to decide if I should call her. But I didn't. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. The city was quiet, but my mind wasn't. Every word my mother said, every lie, every truth, every revelation kept looping, spinning me around. Finally, I drove to her house. It was 2 a.m., and the porch light was on. I knocked, the door opened before I could ring the bell. She looked exactly as she had in the church, tired, worn, mascara streaked, but something in her posture had changed. She wasn't he pretending anymore. "Why are you here?" she asked quietly. "I needed to," I said. "We need to talk all of it." She nodded, stepping aside. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one I'd grown up at, the one that had witnessed every family argument, every quiet betrayal. "I still don't understand why you did it," I said, voice shaking. "Why ruin my wedding like that?" She exhaled slowly. "Because I couldn't watch you marry someone who was lying to you. I tried to warn you, but you didn't listen. I made a mistake the way I did it. Yes, but my intentions, they were for you, not for me." I studied her face, looking for any trace of the woman who had humiliated me. There was none. Only fear, regret, and something I hadn't expected, love. "I hated you," I whispered. "For 6 months. I wanted revenge. I wanted you to hurt the way I did." She reached across the table. Her hand hovered over mine. And now I didn't know. I couldn't decide. My throat was tight, my chest heavy. I don't know if I'm proud or ashamed of what I did. She nodded slowly. "I can't undo it. I can't undo what happened to your wedding. But maybe we can start over. Not as mother and daughter who fight, but as people who understand each other, even if it hurts." I swallowed, my heart pounded heavy with rage. Grief and something soft, a spark of forgiveness I didn't know was there. Maybe, I said. Finally, we sat there in silence, the weight of all the years pressing down on us. I realized revenge hadn't made me feel better. It hadn't healed the wound. But understanding, maybe that could. Weeks pass after the wedding. I didn't speak to my mom much, and she didn't call. But something had shifted. The rage that had driven me to expose her had softened into a complicated, a part guilt, part understanding, part relief. I went back through every memory, my ruined wedding, the letters, Ryan, Chloe, my mother's tears, and realized how messy life really is. People make mistakes. People hurt each other, even when they love each other. And sometimes, revenge only teaches you what you already knew, that no one wins when hearts break. Eventually, I called her. The conversation was awkward at first. Her voice, when it came, was hesitant. "I know I can't make up for the wedding. I can't take it back, I know," I said. "And I shouldn't have humiliated you at your wedding, either." Silence. Then softly she said, "Do you forgive me?" I laughed, a little bitter, a little relieved. I think I'm learning to. We didn't magically heal overnight. There were still arguments, still bitter memories. But something was different. I didn't feel the same burning need for revenge. I didn't feel like I had to punish her to prove I was right. I also realized something else. Sometimes the people you think are villains are just broken humans trying to navigate impossible situations. And sometimes the ones you think are innocent aren't perfect either. I still wonder if I was wrong, if standing up in that church was the right choice. AITA, probably, but it was also necessary. Necessary for the truth. Necessary for me to face my feelings, to see who I really was, and to finally understand her. Mom and I are still figuring things out. We're not close yet, but the anger has faded. And maybe one day we'll even laugh about it. For now, I'm left with the messy, complicated truth that love, family, and forgiveness are rarely clean or easy. They're just human. And that is the story.